The bridge of the U.S. Defiance hummed with a quiet intensity that bordered on desperation. Holographic displays flickered with the ghosts of fallen civilizations, each data point a silent memorial to worlds consumed by the Void Collective. Commander Jack Rice stood motionless, his dark eyes reflecting the cascade of information that told a story of unrelenting destruction. Outside the ship's reinforced viewport, the galaxy looked like a shattered mosaic. Debris fields stretched for light years, the remnants of once proud civilizations now reduced to cosmic dust. The Void Collective's method of conquest was not just about territorial expansion, it was systematic annihilation. They didn't just defeat civilizations, they dismantled them completely, converting biological matter and technological infrastructure into raw computational resources. Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez, the ship's primary sensor officer, broke the tense silence. "Commander, I'm picking up another distress signal." Her fingers danced across the holographic interface, pulling up a fragmented transmission that was more static than substance. Rice approached, his weathered hand resting on the back of her chair. The transmission was unlike anything they'd seen before, a desperate cry that seemed to cut through the background radiation of space itself. "Can you clean it up?" Maya worked her magic, her hands moving with the precision of a surgeon. Slowly, the static resolved into a coherent message. A voice emerged, not human, but distinctly intelligent. The language was unknown, but the universal translator quickly began to parse its meaning. "Last transmission of the Corval Resistance. Our worlds are gone. Our people scattered. If anyone receives this..." The message dissolved into static, then briefly cleared. "Hope rests with those who still resist." The bridge crew fell silent. They had heard countless such messages over the past months, each one a testament to the Void Collective's ruthless efficiency. But something about this transmission felt different. Commander Rice turned to his executive officer, Marcus Chen. "Historical records. Pull everything we have on the Corval civilization." Chen's fingers flew across his console. Holographic displays populated with historical data, star charts, and cultural information. The Corval had been a peaceful scientific civilization, more interested in exploration and research than military conquest. Their technology was advanced, but primarily focused on understanding the universe rather than dominating it. They were located in the Epsilon Quadrant, Chen reported. Approximately 300 inhabited worlds, with a population of nearly 900 billion before the Void Collective's invasion. His voice caught slightly. Now reduced to less than 1 million refugees. Rice absorbed the information, his mind already calculating potential strategies. The U.S. Defiance was no ordinary battleship. Developed in the final desperate months of humanity's own near extinction, the ship represented the pinnacle of human technological innovation. Its quantum adaptive shields, experimental faster-than-light drive, and revolutionary computational systems made it unlike any vessel that had come before. Lieutenant Elena Martinez, the ship's chief communications officer, spoke up. "Commander, I'm detecting multiple encrypted subchannels riding alongside that transmission. They're using a compression algorithm I've never seen before." "Can you crack it?" Rice asked. Martinez's smile was predatory. "Give me an hour." The bridge continued its careful dance of monitoring and analysis. Each crew member knew the stakes. The Void Collective had systematically dismantled civilization after civilization, converting entire populations into computational nodes in their ever-expanding network. Humanity had narrowly escaped the same fate, losing nearly 70% of its population and most of its homeworlds in the initial invasion. The U.S. Defiance represented more than just a military vessel. It was a statement of defiance, a technological marvel that embodied humanity's last, desperate hope. As if to punctuate the moment, the ship's quantum sensors began to pulse with an unusual rhythm. Something was changing in the vast, dark expanse of space, something that might just alter the course of the entire galactic conflict. Commander Rice felt it in his bones. This transmission, this moment, was different. The Void Collective had made a mistake, and humanity was about to make them pay for it. The sanctuary station drifted like a wounded leviathan against the backdrop of endless space. Its hull was a patchwork of salvaged materials, fragments from 100 different civilizations welded together by desperation and the will to survive. Commander Jack Reyes stood at the airlock, taking in the intricate complexity of the station's design. Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez flanked him, her hand resting instinctively near her weapon. The station's internal atmosphere was a carefully managed mixture of gases designed to support multiple species. Indicators on her environmental suit flickered with constant adjustments: oxygen levels, radiation shielding, gravitational stabilization. Incoming diplomatic delegation. Marcus Chen's voice crackled through their communication implants. Multiple species approaching. The first to enter was Zarakal, the senior diplomat from the Luminous species. Her crystalline form shifted and refracted light in mesmerizing patterns, a living prism that seemed to exist between solid and liquid states, where human bodies were defined by flesh and bone. Zarakal was a complex lattice of energy and quantum-stabilized matter. Commander Reyes, she spoke, her voice a melodic resonance that seemed to bypass traditional sound waves and communicate directly with the auditory centers of the brain. We did not expect humanity to send anyone. Most believe your species had been completely eliminated. Reyes met her gaze steadily. Reports of our extinction were greatly exaggerated. The diplomatic chamber was a marvel of adaptive engineering. Surrounding them were representatives from the last surviving resistance groups, each more broken than the last. To the left, a delegation from the silicon-based Krell stood motionless, their rocky bodies barely distinguishable from the chamber's metallic walls. Nearby, gaseous entities from the Nebulon system drifted in carefully maintained containment fields. A holographic display activated, showing the galaxy's current state. Red zones, controlled by the Void Collective, consumed nearly 87% of known space. The remaining free territories were shrinking by the hour. We've lost contact with the Andromeda Resistance, reported Krellax, the senior representative of the Silicon species. His voice was a grinding rumble, like stones being crushed together. Our last communication suggested a complete system collapse in Sector 17. Maya stepped forward, her fingers dancing across a portable holographic interface. We intercepted a fragmented transmission from the Corval survivors. It contained encrypted data packets that might provide some tactical advantage. Zarakal's crystalline form flickered, a sign of intense interest among her species. The Corval were masters of computational research. If they managed to encrypt something during their final moments, it could be significant. The room fell silent. Each species represented here had lost everything. Entire civilizations reduced to a few thousand survivors, huddled in this makeshift sanctuary. The weight of extinction pressed down on them like a physical force. Reyes understood their desperation. Humanity had faced a similar fate just months earlier. The initial Void Collective invasion had decimated Earth and its colonies, leaving less than 30% of the human population alive. The U.S. Defiance represented not just a military vessel, but the culmination of humanity's most advanced technological research. We're not here to offer false hope, Reyes said, his voice cutting through the chamber's tension. We're here to fight back. He activated a holographic projection that showed the unique technological capabilities of the U.S. Defiance. Quantum adaptive shields that could reconfigure themselves faster than any known targeting system. An experimental faster-than-light drive that didn't just move through space, but could temporarily manipulate space-time itself. The alien representatives leaned forward, or whatever passed for leaning in their diverse physiologies. The Void Collective doesn't just conquer, Reyes continued. They convert. Every civilization becomes raw computational resources, biological matter transformed into network nodes. But they've never encountered a species like humanity. Krellax's rocky form vibrated, the equivalent of a skeptical laugh. Many species have claimed to be different. All have fallen. Not this time, Maya interjected. She brought up the encrypted Corval transmission, showing its complex quantum-layered structure. This signal contains something unique, something the Void Collective won't expect. Zarakil moved closer, her crystalline form refracting the holographic data. "A weapon?" she asked. Reyes smiled. "Something better. A revolution." The diplomatic chamber hummed with a new emotion, something that had been absent for far too long. Something that felt remarkably like hope. The research laboratory aboard the U.S. Defiance was unlike any scientific workspace in galactic history. Holographic interfaces danced with quantum algorithms, while advanced computational models morphed and reshaped themselves in real time. Lieutenant Amanda Rodriguez stood at the center of this technological symphony, her eyes reflecting the intricate data patterns surrounding her. "We're not just developing a virus," she explained to the assembled alien scientists. "We're creating a quantum entanglement communication disruptor that can literally rewrite computational infrastructure." Zarakil's crystalline form hovered nearby, her quantum-sensitive molecular structure vibrating with intense curiosity. Beside her, Dr. Krulax from the silicon-based research team analyzed the preliminary data models, his rocky appendages manipulating holographic projections with surprising delicacy. Amanda's presentation continued, revealing layers of complexity that pushed the boundaries of conventional warfare. The Void Collective's primary strength was its unified computational network, a galaxy-wide system that allowed instantaneous communication and coordinated action across millions of light years. "Traditional electromagnetic attacks won't work," she said, zooming in on a molecular-level representation of the Void Collective's communication infrastructure. "Their network uses quantum entanglement principles that make standard disruption techniques obsolete." Commander Jack Reyes watched from the sidelines, understanding the critical nature of this research. Humanity's survival, and that of every remaining free species, depended on breaking through the Void Collective's seemingly impenetrable communication system. Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez, Amanda's sister, and the ship's primary sensor officer, began overlaying historical data from previous Void Collective encounters. Each holographic layer revealed another fragment of the massive computational puzzle. Patterns emerged, subtle vulnerabilities that had been overlooked by previous civilizations. "Watch this," Maya said, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. A complex series of quantum interactions began to unfold, showing how the proposed viral algorithm could exploit microscopic gaps in the Void Collective's network architecture. The alien scientists were initially skeptical. Dr. Krulax's rocky form tensed, his communication translator producing a sound that seemed like a mixture of grinding stones and digital interference. "Every civilization has claimed to find a weakness," he stated. "None have succeeded." Amanda didn't miss a beat, because they were thinking linearly. "We're approaching this as a quantum problem, not a traditional computational challenge." She pulled up a series of simulations that demonstrated the virus's potential. Unlike traditional computer viruses that attacked specific systems, this quantum entanglement disruptor would work at a fundamental communication level. It wouldn't just interrupt signals, it would create cascading uncertainty within the Void Collective's entire network. Zarakil moved closer, her crystalline form refracting the holographic data in mesmerizing patterns. "Explain the quantum uncertainty principle's role," she requested. Amanda smiled. This was where human innovation truly shined. In quantum systems, observation changes the state of the system. Our virus doesn't just introduce errors, it creates a state of perpetual computational uncertainty. Each attempt to resolve the uncertainty creates more uncertainty. The simulation showed how the virus would propagate. Like a technological cancer, it would spread through the Void Collective's communication network, creating exponential computational instability. Traditional defenses would be useless because the virus wasn't attacking specific systems. It was challenging the fundamental way the network processed information. Commander Reyes understood the potential immediately. "This isn't just a weapon," he said quietly. "It's a complete paradigm shift." Marcus Chen, the ship's executive officer, began calculating potential deployment strategies. The virus would need to be introduced at multiple critical network nodes simultaneously. One missed connection could allow the Void Collective to isolate and neutralize the threat. "We'll need a multi-species strike team," Chen suggested. "Humans for the technological expertise, Lumina for quantum sensitivity, Krell for computational analysis." The research team worked through the night, refining the quantum viral algorithm. Each species contributed unique perspectives: human creativity, Lumina quantum sensitivity, Krell computational precision. What had begun as a last-ditch effort was transforming into something revolutionary. As the first complete simulation ran, the holographic display erupted with cascading quantum interactions. The Void Collective's seemingly impenetrable network began to destabilize, showing vulnerabilities that no one had ever seen before. Hope, for the first time in years, felt tangible. The observation deck of the U.S. Defiance had been converted into a high-stakes operational center. Holographic displays covered every surface, showing a three-dimensional representation of the Void Collective's communication network, a massive, pulsing web of computational nodes that spanned entire star systems. Commander Jack Rice studied the infiltration team. They were unlike any strike force in galactic history, a carefully assembled group of specialists from multiple species, each chosen for their unique abilities to navigate the most complex computational landscape ever encountered. Lieutenant Elena Martinez, the ship's chief communications officer, would lead the digital infiltration. Her human neural implants had been modified with experimental quantum adaptive interfaces developed during humanity's most desperate research initiatives. Beside her stood Zorakal, the Lumina diplomat, whose quantum-sensitive molecular structure could detect computational anomalies invisible to traditional sensor systems. "We have a 37-minute window," Marcus Chen announced, his fingers dancing across a holographic control interface. "The Void Collective's defensive algorithms cycle every 40 minutes. Our entry point is a secondary communication node in the Epsilon Quadrant." The team's plan was audacious. Rather than a direct assault, they would introduce the quantum entanglement virus through multiple micro-infiltration points. Each point was carefully selected to create maximum computational uncertainty within the Void Collective's network. Elena took a deep breath. The neural interface began to connect, transforming her consciousness into a digital projection that could move through computational spaces. "Initiating infiltration sequence," she reported, her voice slightly distorted by the quantum transmission. Her consciousness became a fluid intelligence, moving through the Void Collective's communication infrastructure. Traditional hacking was linear. This was something entirely different. Elena's mind became a quantum wave function, simultaneously existing in multiple computational states. Zorakal provided real-time quantum analysis. Her crystalline form vibrated with intense concentration, tracking the most minute fluctuations in the network's computational landscape. "Detecting initial resistance patterns," she reported. "Quantum uncertainty increasing." The first injection point was a communication relay near a recently conquered star system. The quantum entanglement virus began its work, not by attacking specific systems, but by introducing fundamental uncertainty into the computational network. "It's working," Marcus Chen observed, watching the holographic displays. "The virus is creating cascading uncertainty nodes." In the physical world, this translated to something remarkable. Void Collective communication nodes began to experience micro-interruptions. Ships separated by light years suddenly found themselves unable to coordinate with perfect precision. Computational resources became slightly less efficient, slightly more unpredictable. Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez monitored the external sensors. "We're seeing initial destabilization in 3 adjacent sector networks," she reported. "The virus is spreading faster than our initial models predicted." The infiltration team worked with surgical precision. Each movement was calculated, each computational interaction designed to maximize the virus's spread while minimizing the risk of detection. They were digital ghosts, moving through a computational landscape that no species had ever successfully penetrated before. Zorakal's quantum sensitivity provided an unexpected advantage. She could detect computational flow patterns that seemed random to other species. "There," she would say, pointing to what looked like meaningless data clusters. "That's a communication node with reduced quantum coherence." Alina's neural interface began to show strain. Navigating the Void Collective's network was like swimming through an ocean of pure information, where each thought could potentially trigger a massive defensive response. 60% of primary infiltration complete, Marcus Chen announced. The tension on the bridge was palpable. They were doing something that every previous civilization had considered impossible. A sudden computational surge threatened to detect their presence. Alina's neural interface spiked with warning signals. For a moment, it seemed like the entire infiltration might collapse. But human determination, combined with the unique abilities of their alien allies, proved more adaptable than the Void Collective's defensive systems. "Infiltration complete," Alina finally reported, her voice weak but triumphant. On the holographic displays, the Void Collective's communication network began to show the first signs of true vulnerability. What had seemed like an impenetrable fortress was now revealed to have microscopic cracks. The galaxy held its breath. Space erupted in a symphony of destructive potential. The Void Collective's pursuit ships materialized like shadows, their angular forms cutting through the cosmic darkness with predatory precision. The U.S. Defiance became a ghost, its quantum adaptive shields creating a dance of technological survival that defied conventional warfare. Commander Jack Reyes gripped the command chair, his muscles coiled with tension. "Evasive pattern Delta," he commanded, his voice cutting through the bridge's controlled chaos. Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez's fingers flew across the holographic interface. External sensor displays showed the pursuing ships, each a marvel of computational engineering, designed to track and eliminate any resistance with ruthless efficiency. But the Defiance was different. It was a vessel born of humanity's most desperate and innovative research. "Incoming wavefront," Marcus Chen announced. Multiple computational tracking beams attempting to lock onto our quantum signature. The ship's experimental faster-than-light drive began to pulse. Unlike traditional faster-than-light systems that simply move through space, this drive manipulated space-time itself. It wasn't just about speed. It was about becoming momentarily unreal, existing in multiple potential locations simultaneously. Elena Martinez, still recovering from the digital infiltration, managed a weak smile. "They're using standard pursuit algorithms," she said, "which means they're vulnerable to quantum uncertainty." Sarakel's crystalline form hovered near the sensor station, her quantum-sensitive molecular structure providing additional computational analysis. "The virus is creating cascading uncertainty in their tracking systems," she reported. "Each attempt to lock onto our position is introducing exponential computational errors." Commander Reyes understood the critical nature of this moment. The pursuit wasn't just about physical escape. It was a test of their entire infiltration strategy. If the Void Collective could trace the source of the quantum entanglement virus, everything they had worked for would be lost. The ship performed maneuvers that would have been impossible with traditional propulsion. It didn't just move. It existed in a state of quantum probability. One moment near a distant asteroid field, the next momentarily phasing through the computational blind spots of the pursuing ships. "Tactical overview," Reyes demanded. Marcus Chen brought up a holographic display showing the pursuit. 7 Void Collective ships, each capable of destroying entire planetary systems, were now locked in a pursuit that defied their fundamental computational logic. "The virus is working," Maya confirmed. "Their coordination is dropping by 0.03% with each computational cycle. It doesn't sound like much, but in a system that relies on perfect synchronization, it's devastating," Reyes finished. A massive computational wave erupted from the pursuing ships. It was a last-ditch attempt to overwhelm the Defiance's quantum adaptive defenses. Traditional ships would have been instantly disabled. The human vessel did something entirely unexpected. It absorbed the wave. The quantum adaptive shields didn't just deflect the attack. They integrated it. Each computational pulse became part of the ship's defensive matrix, providing additional data that further confused the pursuing vessels. Computational feedback loop initiated, Elena reported, her voice gaining strength. They're trying to track us, but each tracking attempt is now feeding back into their own network. Outside, the pursuing ships began to show signs of desynchronization. Ships that had moved with perfect computational precision now demonstrated microscopic delays. Weapon systems began to misalign by fractions of degrees. Zarakal's crystalline form vibrated with excitement. The quantum uncertainty is spreading faster than our initial models predicted. Commander Reyes allowed himself a moment of grim satisfaction. This was more than a chase. This was a fundamental challenge to the Void Collective's entire method of warfare. "Prepare for quantum jump," he commanded. "Let's show them what human innovation really looks like." The U.S. Defiance seemed to fold in on itself, existing for a moment in multiple potential locations. When it rematerialized, it was light years away, leaving behind a collection of pursuing ships, now struggling with fundamental computational instability. The hunting ground had become a proving ground, and humanity had just rewritten the rules of galactic warfare. The communication hub of the Sanctuary Station erupted with unexpected activity. Holographic displays came alive with transmission signals that had been silent for months, even years. Commander Jack Reyes watched in stunned silence as entire star systems began to show signs of resistance. "It's spreading," Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez announced, her voice a mixture of awe and disbelief. "The quantum entanglement virus is creating communication pathways between enslaved populations." What had begun as a precise digital infiltration was now transforming into something far more powerful. The Void Collective's greatest strength, its ability to instantaneously coordinate across millions of light years, was becoming its most critical weakness. Zarakal's crystalline form pulsed with an intensity that suggested pure excitement. "Each communication node is becoming a potential point of rebellion," she observed. Her quantum-sensitive molecular structure could detect the subtle changes in the computational landscape. Marcus Chen brought up a galactic map that told a remarkable story. Red zones, previously solid indicators of Void Collective control, were now developing microscopic blue fractures. Each fracture represented a successful communication breakthrough, a moment where enslaved populations could suddenly communicate beyond their imposed limitations. "We're seeing spontaneous resistance formations," Elena Martinez reported, analyzing the incoming transmission data. Computational nodes that were previously completely controlled are now showing independent communication patterns. The U.S. Defiance had become more than a military vessel. It was now a beacon of hope, broadcasting tactical information and quantum viral keys that allowed different civilizations to break free from their oppressors. Commander Reyes understood the profound nature of what was happening. This wasn't just a military strategy. It was a fundamental challenge to the Void Collective's method of galactic control. On various conquered worlds, the first signs of rebellion began to emerge. Communication networks that had been tightly controlled now showed unexpected fluctuations. Populations that had been systematically suppressed found themselves able to share information in ways they hadn't experienced in generations. A transmission came through from the Corval Resistance, a species that had been thought to be completely eliminated. "We are receiving," the message stated. "Communication pathways are stabilizing." Maya Rodriguez worked frantically to analyze the incoming data. "The virus isn't just creating communication channels," she explained. "It's teaching these populations how to communicate in ways that bypass the Void Collective's control mechanisms." Each liberated communication node became a potential spark of resistance. Populations that had been isolated and controlled now found themselves part of a larger network of potential rebellion. "Computational uncertainty is increasing exponentially," Marcus Chen reported. The holographic displays showed the Void Collective's communication network beginning to develop unexpected instabilities. What had once been a solid, impenetrable system now looked like a fragile web with growing fractures. Elena Martinez, still recovering from the initial infiltration, managed a weak but triumphant smile. "We're not just fighting. she said. "We're giving them the tools to fight for themselves." Zarakil moved closer to the communication displays. Her unique quantum sensitivity allowed her to perceive computational landscapes in ways other species couldn't. "Each communication breakthrough is creating additional pathways," she observed. "The resistance is becoming self-propagating." The sanctuary station became a hub of unexpected hope. Representatives from species that had been on the brink of total extinction now found themselves part of a growing network of rebellion. The Krell, the Nebulon, the scattered remnants of a dozen conquered civilizations, all were suddenly connected in ways they had never imagined possible. Commander Reyes understood the true nature of their victory. This wasn't about military might or technological superiority. This was about giving hope a chance to spread. "Prepare additional communication packages," he commanded. "We need to support these emerging resistance networks." The galaxy was changing. The Void Collective's method of total control was being challenged at its most fundamental level. Communication, the ability to share information, to connect, to understand, was becoming the most powerful weapon. As the holographic displays continued to update, it became clear that something remarkable was happening. The tide of galactic conflict was turning, and humanity had provided the first critical spark. The final battle was nothing like any conflict in galactic history. A multinational, multi-species fleet assembled around the Void Collective's central computational core, a massive structure that looked like a planet-sized network of impossible geometric configurations. Ships from species that had been bitter enemies mere months ago now flew in perfect synchronization. Commander Jack Reyes stood on the bridge of the U.S. Defiance, watching the assembled fleet. Holographic displays showed a complex tactical overlay that was part military strategy, part computational warfare. "Final approach," he announced, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were about to attempt. Lieutenant Elena Martinez, still recovering from her earlier digital infiltration, managed to take her station. Her neural interfaces had been pushing the boundaries of human computational interaction since the initial quantum viral deployment. "Computational disruption sequences are primed," she reported. The Void Collective's central core was more than just a command center. It was a living computational network that processed information across entire star systems. Billions of computational nodes pulsed with a rhythm that had maintained galactic control for generations. Zarakil's crystalline form hovered near the primary sensor array. Her quantum-sensitive molecular structure provided insights that traditional sensor systems could never achieve. "Detecting massive computational resistance," she warned. "The core is aware of our approach." Marcus Chen began coordinating the multi-species attack groups. Krell silicon-based battle groups provided raw computational power. Nebulon gas cloud formations created adaptive camouflage networks. Human ships, led by the U.S. Defiance, would deliver the primary quantum viral payload. "We have 37 minutes," Chen announced. "After that, the core's defensive computational cycles will reset." The first wave of attack was unlike any traditional military engagement. Ships didn't just fire weapons, they became vectors for computational disruption. Each vessel carried carefully calibrated quantum entanglement virus packages designed to exploit the most minute vulnerabilities in the Void Collective's network. Commander Rice watched the initial assault unfold. The Void Collective's defensive systems responded with computational precision, attempting to isolate and neutralize each incoming threat. But something was different this time. The quantum viral packets weren't just attacking. They were learning. "Adaptive response detected," Elena reported. Her neural interfaces were pushing human computational interaction to unprecedented levels. "The virus is evolving in real time, adapting to each defensive countermeasure." Zarakil's crystalline form vibrated with intense concentration. "Quantum uncertainty is increasing exponentially," she observed. "Each defensive response is creating additional computational vulnerabilities." The battle transformed from a traditional military engagement into something far more complex. Ships moved in patterns that defied traditional tactical logic. Computational attacks became a form of digital warfare that was part mathematics, part quantum mechanics, part pure innovation. Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez managed the external sensor arrays. "We're seeing complete computational destabilization in multiple sector networks," she announced. "The viral payload is spreading faster than our initial models predicted." The Void Collective's central core began to show signs of fundamental computational stress. Massive information networks that had maintained galactic control for generations started to develop unexpected fractures. "Prepare primary payload," Commander Rice commanded. The U.S. Defiance moved into position. Its experimental faster-than-light drive began to pulse with a rhythm that seemed to exist between potential realities. The ship wasn't just approaching the computational core, it was becoming a living vector of technological revolution. Elena Martinez's neural interfaces reached their absolute limit. She was no longer just controlling the ship. She was becoming part of a living computational network that was challenging the most fundamental principles of galactic control. "Payload ready," she reported, her voice a mixture of human determination and computational precision. The quantum viral attack was more than a military strategy. It was a fundamental challenge to the way the Void Collective understood information, control, and existence. As the U.S. Defiance began its final approach, the galaxy held its collective breath. The aftermath of the battle defied every known principle of galactic conflict. Where one would expect total destruction, something extraordinary emerged. The Void Collective's massive computational infrastructure didn't collapse, it transformed. Commander Jack Rice stood on the observation deck of the U.S. Defiance, watching as entire computational networks began to reorganize themselves. Zerakil's crystalline form hovered beside him, her quantum-sensitive molecular structure providing real-time analysis of the unprecedented event. "We're not destroying," Rice observed quietly. "We're rebuilding." Lieutenant Elena Martinez, her neural interfaces still humming with the remnants of the computational battle, brought up holographic displays showing the remarkable transformation. The quantum entanglement virus hadn't just disrupted the Void Collective's network, it had fundamentally rewired its entire computational philosophy. "The network is adapting," Maya Rodriguez reported from her sensor station. "But not like before. It's learning." Marcus Chen analyzed the incoming data streams. Entire computational nodes that had previously been used for control and suppression were now creating communication pathways. What had been a system of total domination was becoming something entirely new. Zerakil's crystalline form pulsed with understanding. "The virus introduced more than uncertainty," she explained. It introduced the concept of collaborative intelligence. The transformation was visible across multiple star systems. Worlds that had been completely controlled now showed signs of independent communication. Computational networks that had once been instruments of oppression were becoming platforms for shared knowledge and mutual understanding. "Initial reports are coming in," Elena announced. "Liberated populations are beginning to communicate directly. The computational infrastructure is facilitating dialogue instead of control." Commander Rice understood the profound nature of their victory. This wasn't about military conquest or technological superiority. This was about fundamentally changing how intelligence systems could interact. Representatives from dozens of liberated species gathered in the Sanctuary Station's main conference chamber. The Krell, with their silicon-based physiologies, stood alongside gaseous nebulon entities and crystalline lumina diplomats. Humans moved among them, not as conquerors, but as collaborators. "The computational network can be repurposed," Jack Rice explained to the assembled delegates. "Instead of a system of control, it can become a system of communication." Zerakil stepped forward, her quantum-sensitive form refracting the chamber's light. "We have an opportunity to create something unprecedented. A galactic communication network based on mutual understanding rather than domination." The technical teams worked tirelessly. Where the Void Collective had used computational power to suppress, they now began to create infrastructure that could facilitate unprecedented levels of interspecies communication and cooperation. Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez discovered something remarkable in the data streams. The quantum entanglement virus had not just disrupted the Void Collective's network, it had introduced a fundamental evolutionary principle into their computational infrastructure. "It's like the network is developing its own form of empathy," she reported, her voice filled with wonder. Entire worlds that had been isolated for generations now found themselves connected. Computational nodes that had previously been used for control now became conduits for shared knowledge, cultural exchange, and mutual understanding. Commander Reyes met with Zarakil and other lead diplomats. "This is more than a military victory," he said. "This is a fundamental reimagining of how intelligent systems can interact." The U.S. Defiance became more than a military vessel. It transformed into a symbol of possibility, a testament to the power of innovation, collaboration, and hope. Belina Martinez, her neural interface is still processing the massive computational transformation, summarized it best. "We didn't just defeat an enemy. We showed them a different way of existing." As the days passed, the liberated computational network began to show signs of something unprecedented. It wasn't just a communication system. It was becoming a collaborative intelligence that valued understanding over control. The galaxy watched in awe as something entirely new emerged from the ashes of what had seemed like total destruction. Humanity had done more than win a war. They had shown that hope could be the most powerful technology of all.